안녕하세요. You're listening to 4 from On One podcast.
Welcome back to Four for Mama podcast, episode 62. And we got our Italian stallion back. How are you, mate?
Hey, what's going on? Good to be home. Great to be back in my office again.
How's your Korean?
Still poor.
Cool.
Still
So
poor.
you're back in Seoul after what, 3 months in Chicago?
3 months, yeah. 3-month break. Now we're back, just in time to ring in the Lunar New Year with the rest of my Korean brothers and sisters here.
Which winter's worse, the Korean winter or the Chicago winter?
I mean, they're kind of equally the same, but I think right now we're just hitting this Arctic blast, whatever it is. It's been chilly. It's been frigid this past week alone, so I'm just waiting it to warm up.
So this podcast, we're going to talk about firsts. You have some young kids and they're hitting firsts for milestones. They had the first flight over to Chicago. I know your little boy's had his first haircut. Do you want to tell us about flying with toddlers in an airplane? I can't imagine doing that. I think I'd rather just take a boat. I don't know.
Let's put it this way. The next time we fly home, it's just going to be direct. There are not going to be any layovers, not one, not two. I don't care how much it's going to cost me. We're just going to fly direct because heading there, it took at least 30 hours. 30-hour flight in the opposite direction. And then coming back was longer because we had a 10-hour layover in Qatar. But I mean, at the same time, I think that helped because not only did we get to adjust the time, we could refresh. We showered in the lounge and stuff. I made sure to get a lounge so we could have like complimentary drinks, food, and some naps in between. And they had like so many playgrounds in the airport for Sophie to play in. And so
So out of 10, what would you give the score of your kids' first time in an airplane?
I would say about an 8. They did great. We received so many compliments about Gian. Like, wow, like he's a really good baby. He did a very good job. And I was like, thank you so much. It's his first flight. And we were
such a happy kid.
He's a really happy, chill baby. I mean, he is super chill. Not a care in the world. He smiles a lot. And he only gets grumpy when he's hungry or just tired. So.
And he had his first haircut this week. How did he go with that?
If you really just like check out like the videos, the entire time he's just like staring up at the woman, like at the stylist, just like glaring at her, like, what are you doing? What are you doing with those scissors? Like he didn't scream, he didn't cry, he just like looked himself in the mirror and just watched his whole like image just transform into like this gorgeous stud that he is.
Yeah,
he did a really good job.
Like she's trying to take a snip and kept moving, so I'm sure she
he's kind of like
missed shot sometimes.
What are you doing? Yeah, we had to put on a couple of videos for him just so he can keep still. Yeah.
That seems to be the go-to for kids is the videos.
The videos, yeah. They never can go wrong with that.
All right, let's talk about us two. Let's quiz each other on our first time for things.
Okay. No, I'm excited about this, yeah.
I got a few. I think you got a few. So let's go. I'll start off first. What was your first concert and who was it?
All right. Well, there's an official one and an unofficial one because I haven't been to many. There was one. So I guess the first one technically was at a Milwaukee State Fair. They had a concert and it was Hoobastank. Remember Hoobastank?
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was 2004, I think.
That's my generation. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like 2004, 2005. So I was probably about 15 years old. And we were living in this little town up north, a place called Lake Villa near Gurney. And me and my buddies, we just got in this car and just took the drive up to Milwaukee to the State Fair. And then Hoobastank came. I was like, wow, it's Hoobastank. And completely free. And then the official one was several years later in early 2012. And it was Mana. They're a rock band from Mexico, really popular in the Latin world. So, yeah, that one I actually paid tickets for. But it was great.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Phoenix.
My first one was, do you remember the band called Millencolin? Punk band? Millencolin? Swedish punk band. Anyway, I went there. And this next one, maybe you have those Live, Live, that's the band name.
Oh, okay. You saw Live?
Live, yeah. And he walked right across my row as well. It was pretty cool. Yeah. That were my first concerts. And the
Okay.
first festival I went to, we called it Big Day Out. It doesn't run anymore. It's the most biggest concert festival for a long time, ran by one of the major radio stations out this way. Like all the big acts would perform at this festival, but they just got too expensive. And I think insurance got, I don't know. But yeah, the festival was amazing. And the main acts were Killers, the Killers when they were in their prime,
Oh, okay.
and and uh, Tool. Tool. Do you know Tool?
Mm-mm.
No.
I don't know many bands. I'm just not really like a
No.
music junkie. That's why I haven't really gone to many concerts.
But there's also for the Aussies out there, they also had sneaky sound systems like dance music, and it
Hmm.
was really popular. And that was really cool. Yeah,
Nice.
that was my favorite concert. I'll ask you one more than you ask.
Of course. Yeah. No, go ahead.
Talking about going on the plane, when was the first? What age were you when you first went on a plane, and where did you go?
Oh, I was a young kid. I was probably maybe 4 years old, and we flew to Texas because my dad's side of the family was there. And
Cool.
I think no, maybe I was probably about 3 years old. I was fairly young because I have just a vivid memory of just being extremely sick. Like when I think of that
Yeah.
flight, I think of myself like hovering over that little vomit bag. My mom's sitting next to me, and the flight attendant come over and is like, "Is he all right? Is he gonna be okay?" I remember just like breathing into like, I feel nauseous, and that's like the earliest memory I have on a plane. It's god awful.
Yeah, mine's similar. My first flight was from Sydney to LA when I was in year
Wow, that's a long flight.
six, I think. So about 11 years old, 10 years old.
Okay.
We flew over, and actually, my aunt was a flight attendant on that
Oh,
flight.
yeah.
So she got us to go into the cockpit.
Oh,
So we went
wow.
in the cockpit and just the pilots do the thing. And then another plane flew by us, which is quite cool. It was in the middle of the night. And
Wow.
then, like you, by the end of it, I was pretty good all the way. Then coming down into land, I got a bit seasick. I was going to say seasick, but air
Yeah.
sickness.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting in the terminal at LA, and I was just sitting there looking pretty grey, probably or green. And
Yeah.
there's a massive queue to get through customs, and someone saw me looking pretty bad. And
Yeah.
she rushed us to the front line and pushed us out. So I saved our family like 2 hours of waiting time.
Believe it or not, like when I don't know what it is, but when we landed, referring back to when we were coming back to Korea from Chicago,
Mm.
our first flight into door, the minute we landed, somebody like pushed me from behind as I was holding Gianna. I was like, who the hell is pushing me? And this little boy just started vomiting like all over the aisle, like to the bath. Like him and his mom were trying to push people all the way so he can run, and eventually he just got sick. That
Are,
sucks.
are you a seat back person or seat not back person?
A little bit back. I'm not all the way to I'm like making eye contact with the person behind me. Like I hate people who
Yeah,
do that. Push like
yeah.
all the way back. Oh god, no. I just enough just so I can attempt to sleep. Because again, I can't sleep on planes.
I
I
can't say
cannot.
planes now.
I cannot do
Especially
it.
long distance planes. Actually, short distance planes, I think I do quite well because there's nothing to entertain me, or you just sit there and because there's no TV, no. I don't know. I've fallen asleep on short distance flights, but not long
Really? Yeah.
distance. Because long distance, your goal is to get on the plane and fall asleep because you want to make the trip
Sure.
faster. Yeah,
Sure.
the
Yes.
the small ones, you're like, oh, it's only 3 hours. Like I can
Yeah.
say it doesn't matter. But like the 16-hour flights, you were like, please fall asleep, please fall asleep. I want to fall asleep, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah.
Mm,
The second flight was only 8 hours, so it went by like a blink of an eye. But I was actually
mm,
going to mention referring back to planes. So the youngest age was again about 2, 3 years old, and then the first time I
mm.
went on a plane leaving the country was in 2009, when I was 20 years old, and I flew to South America when I flew to Colombia. That was my first international flight. What about yourself? Well, was that probably when you went to LA then? Is that your first?
Yeah, first
Okay,
international.
so that's
I've only
okay.
done one domestic, no, two. I've flown to Gold Coast and Melbourne. So yeah, but internationally, yeah, like Australia, same as America, everywhere's so far away, like
Yeah,
15 hours, 16 hours. Even direct flight from Korea to Sydney was just under 10 hours.
yeah,
So you just get used to it. But to be honest, speaking of when I was a kid, younger, like even when I first started traveling in my 20s, I'd always choose the window seat because I didn't want to get bothered to with people wanting to go to the bathroom. So I
Yeah.
picked the window seat because I could just sit there. I used to do little exercises in my seat because that
You're one of
was the
those
deep
people.
vein. No, the deep vein thrombosis craze was going on about then. But
Okay.
now I can't sit in the seat for longer than 3 hours. My bum hurts. So I have to sit the aisle seats now and go for a walk every 2, 3 hours. I don't know why. I don't know. Like
I think,
sometimes I think it's my weight, but I was coming back from Korea the last trip where I was not heavy, so
yeah,
it couldn't be my weight. So it's either my posture
it could
or
just be an age thing because my ass was hurting on the way back.
yeah,
Like such discomfort and like a burning kind of sensation. I don't know what the
yeah,
hell it was. Obviously, I've been on a plane for 30 hours, but I was just like, my ass just really hurts. Like I don't know if I was
yeah.
just like chafing and stuff. I don't know what the hell was going on down there.
Do you know what I do now? You know those neck
What's that?
things, the neck
Yeah.
ones. I sit on them and it helps.
Ah, like
So
those little, yeah, like little donut
yeah,
things.
yeah, cushions. Yeah,
Makes
I have
sense.
to sit on. Mm.
I just remember being just super delirious. Like I just need to fucking sleep. I'm so exhausted. I'm so
Yeah,
delirious.
yeah. All
Well,
right. Do you
going
have a
off of,
couple?
yeah, I was gonna say actually going off transportation since we're talking about planes. Let's talk about cars. How old were you when you had your first license or driver's permit, and what was the make and model of your first car?
So in Australia, we could get our learners when we were 16.
Hmm.
And when I was doing it, you had to be on your learners, your L's, for
Okay.
1 year, and
Right.
you have to log in all your hours, and you have
Yeah.
to. I think I had to do 50 hours, but I think a couple of years later it was like 150 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
And then after 1 year on your L's, you'd have to get your P's, your provisional, and then you could drive by yourself. And you had rules, speed rules, and stuff like that. So I tried to get it pretty fast. As soon as I could get it, I tried to get it when I was 16. I failed the test twice, and then
Yeah.
I failed my driving test to get my P's twice. So I wasn't natural. I struggled a little bit,
Yeah.
but I've never had an accident. Never had an accident. So
Knock on wood.
yeah,
Immediately. Did
yeah.
you in the state of Australia, in Australia, do you have to have like enroll like driver's courses? Is that required? Do you have to take like a driver's
You don't have
course?
to, but
Oh,
I
okay.
did because yeah, when I failed the first one, Mum says, "Oh, let's get," because they just know the little keys what you have to do, which was a good thing. He'd take us along the track, and oh, you got to watch out for this corner, this corner. He gave me some tips how to parallel park. So yeah, you don't have to yeah
Nice.
get prepare. Your parents can do it all for you,
Sure.
all the practice. How about in America?
Well,
And how about you?
state of Illinois is a little strict. Like you have to enroll through driver's ed course. So lucky
Yeah.
for me, there was being offered at our high school. So I just took it to like a summer school. And then I was
Mm.
about 15 because we can get our permit by 15 years old. And then same thing, we had to log, I think like 40 hours, but you didn't have to hold it for a year. You just had to complete like the 40 hours. And then once you did that, then you can go to the DMV and apply for it. Now, depending if you took a driver's test, depended on your birthday. So whatever day it fell on randomly, then you would have to take it. But lucky for me, I didn't have to. I just passed the written test. I think I got like 96, 98%. I had like one mistake. And then I was given my license right then and there at 16 years old. And then my
Driving the
first
streets.
Yeah, and then my first car wasn't until I was about maybe 18 or 17 because I had just got my first job when we had moved to Phoenix. And it was a 1998 Toyota Corolla. I
Mm.
love that thing. And then
Yeah,
eventually, once I went to college, I handed it down to my brother and then he crashed it and totaled it. So, yeah, awful. What
my
about
first
yours?
car was actually a Daewoo. A Daewoo.
Oh, yeah?
When I first started uni, my uni was about 40 to an hour drive away. So I could drive to uni to and from. I had to get a
Okay.
car. So I got a car. And it was a Daewoo. For the first year, it was okay. Then after that, it was just a disaster. There was always problems with it. And it survived the 4 or 5 years I was at uni, but I don't know, the same problem just kept on happening. So it cost like $900 each time. Uh, Eventually, the, the mechanical problems cost more than what it was worth. So, like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But
I've
I
never had,
enjoy driving. And actually, coming back to Australia because I didn't drive in Korea. With the 5 years in Korea, I didn't drive at all. So coming back to Australia, I borrowed my grandma's car and took grandma driving. I took my dad driving. I love driving. I miss driving.
Yeah, right. I was
Yeah.
super scared to drive. I drove the States like twice. Like I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm afraid like the police there. I didn't want to
Yeah.
be like one guy gets pulled over and just didn't have like any kind of license. So I only did it a couple times, but it was just like extremely like scary, like nerve-wracking. And then the minute we come
Yeah.
back home, it's like, all right, my car. I get to drive again. And now I love it. I got it all like cleaned. I changed brand new tires, brand new wipes. I got the alignment all set up. So it's like a brand spanking new car. Because again, I know we talked about in a previous episode about our resolutions for this year. Each month I want to
Mm.
take my family on a road trip. So I just want to be sure that we're safe. And I just want to hit all the different provinces and see everything before I dip out the next year. So
Yeah.
I just want to be
Which
prepared.
which is easier to drive in, Chicago or Korea, or which one's more dangerous or more crazy? What would you say?
Chicago by far.
Chicago's
Chicago by
Chicago more
far.
crazy or easier?
It's crazy because you don't want to honk at anybody. Everybody's either packing heat, they got a baseball bat in their trunk, people are more confrontational, things like that. Or here, people won't do anything. They'll honk at you and that's it. No
A
one's going
more
to
road
pull up a
rage.
weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a whole bunch of road rage back home. You don't want to just mess with the wrong person. Speaking of adulthood and messing with the wrong people, when or how old were you when you had your first apartment? And where was it? Because we're talking about crazy people because our first apartment was kind of like in a sketchy neighborhood. And I was a college student, obviously, at the time. So a lot of shady people
Well,
around.
I lived with while I was doing college, I lived here with my dad.
Yeah.
So my first, well, I don't know if you call it my first apartment, it was when I moved to Canada, I guess. But it was more a lodge,
Okay.
living with people. And then
Okay.
in Whistler again, they're working on cruise ships. My first, actually, my own apartment where I'm paying rent,
Yeah.
it was in Korea. Yeah,
Oh, look at
yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's never too late.
Um,
That's exciting.
but so most of the time I was, working on cruise ships, I pay rent, and then I just come home for like 6 weeks. I just stay with mum or dad, and then go away again. And
Uh-huh.
so I've never actually lived in an apartment, my own apartment here in Australia.
Right.
But still, it's too expensive anyway.
I was just
That's
gonna
why
say
I'm
it's probably
just,
like ridiculous as far as like rent right now. I can
yeah,
only imagine.
five days, get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
ridiculous. How
I
about yourself?
well, I stayed in dorms for the first 2 years in college. And then by my sophomore year, I moved out to my first apartment because it was really nice. What drew me to it was that all utilities were included in it, which you really don't really get anymore nowadays. I
Mm.
think the rent at the time was probably only like $500 a month or something, 600
Yeah.
bucks. Yeah, like 550, all utilities included. It was a shady part of Phoenix, but luckily it was like right next to a police station. And I just
Mm.
remember just being so worried, like every time like I parked my car, just arriving home like late from work and then going from the parking lot to like the car, like, oh my God, who am I gonna run into? Like, dear Lord. But I was around maybe God, what, 19? I think about 19, 20 years old, right around that
Mm.
area. And yeah, now you go back in Phoenix, it's all just gentrified now. Last time I visited the neighborhood, it's completely changed. And obviously rent's like three, four
Yeah.
times the price now. So yeah,
Mm.
pretty awful.
What was your first broken bone or major injury?
Oh, well, lucky for me, I've never broken a bone. Let me knock on some wood right
No.
now. I've never broken a bone. Oh, because I'm not a risky person. Major injury, I don't know. I mean, I've had surgery for certain things, but it's more like dental or like oh, did I tell you the time I got that stupid hemorrhoid removed in Korea? That was awful. That was awful. If I
Yeah.
would say that, that was the worst, like ever. I wouldn't wish that upon like my worst enemy. Like the whole process
Mm.
of it and being in just a different country. This was what, a year ago, I think. It was just a year ago. And I just found myself going to this little clinic, like, hey, I got this hemorrhoid. Can you just check it out? And they're like, boom, you need surgery. Let's get it done. You got to recover for 2 days in the hospital. I was like, whoa, what the hell's going on? Like, I'm on the clock. I got to go back to work. Like, I didn't know this was going to happen. So I had to call my boss, like, hey, I can't come back. See you later. And it was just awful because it was a language barrier, one thing after another. They put me under. I woke up. I was just bleeding like everywhere. It was just coming out like Niagara Falls. And it was just gruesome, Keith. It was just so awful. But at the end of the day, I received a call from Hyunjun, believe it or not, the following morning. He's like, hey, buddy, I heard you're in the hospital. Are you all right? I'm like, thanks for calling me. Like, I just needed to hear from somebody because I was just left to the wolves. But yeah, that was awful. What about you? What bone did you break?
Well, if people on YouTube can see it, I broke this finger. I don't know how, but my first major injury was horse riding up from my grandfather's farm,
Okay.
and the horse was on top of the hill, and the horse sort of saw a girl horse leaving out of the paddock and just gunned it down the hill,
Yeah.
and he was running towards the fence, and I was like, oh, and I jumped off, broke my wrist. Right into cow shit, cow poop, and
No, you did? That's awful. That's
um,
terrible.
and that was the major one. Another one was
Did it make
around
like an
this
awful
was
sound? Did you hear like the minute you landed? Like a pop or anything? No, you don't want to believe it? Okay.
and then the other one sort of around the same stage was I went on a whole vacation. I was bike riding, and I fell off the bike. I slid out, and it was quite cold, so I was wearing pants. And we got to the bottom of the hill where we were going. It was like I don't know, 20, 30-minute bike ride, and there was blood pouring out of the bottom of my pants. I didn't notice.
Oh.
I got back up, and one of the other dads said, "Oh, you should ride home." So I rode home, and went to the doctor. I had to get 8 stitches, and they found a piece of the pedal stuck in my leg.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I got a scar. It looks like a A. It looks like this. Looks like an arrow. So that was a bit of that happened all within 1 year. Apart from that, pretty good. Some sporting
Yeah.
injuries, some concussions and heads. But my first major injury was when I was year 2, so about 8 maybe. Yeah.
Ouch. You haven't been like any accident, have you? Have you been in any like car accidents or anything like that? Nothing that caused the
No,
injury there? I've only been in two.
no,
Luckily, they were just like kind of like fender benders. Nothing really
sure.
serious. I've been T-boned once, but nothing like really bad. Nothing that required like medical attention. What about the first time you consumed alcohol?
I was pretty late. Everyone started drinking. I reckon I started in year 10, so when I was 15, 16, but I think I was
Yeah.
one of the late ones. I was one of the late ones. I think they started getting into an early 15-year-old, 15, 14, 15. Um, yeah, I think people probably just, I was pretty shy. I'm not shy, but pretty good. I was a good boy, so I don't think they thought I would do it.
Same.
And
Yeah.
so I wasn't invited to some, I guess, the parties that they were doing. Or maybe I thought
What a
they thought
loser. Yeah. Don't even
my
bother
mum
inviting
would
him.
my mum would dob on them or something like that. But
Yeah.
eventually I got invited and told about them, and I'd just rock up with like one beer, and my parents were pretty trustworthy as long as I didn't get in the car with a drunk, or
Sure.
just walked home or just called
Yeah.
them and say it's time to come and get me. They're pretty trustworthy. Yeah. So about 15 but I didn't really get line drunk until probably 18, 19, when I was legally allowed to drink. I, I didn't want to abuse my parents' trust by getting blind
Sure.
drunk. When I was,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'd only have like 1 or 2 beers, and
I
to
was
be
gonna say,
honest, I didn't. When I
yeah.
first started drinking, I didn't really like beer. It was a bit of a battle to
Nobody
get like beer.
does, right? It's that first time you have that taste, it's like, oh, people like this? Like, what's there to like? Why do they keep drinking
Yeah.
over and over again?
Mm.
But I was probably around the same age as you. I think I was around maybe 16 when well, technically my first sip of beer, I was probably like 3 years old. I took it from my dad's hand and he watched me because I thought it was a 7-Up at the time. It was like, because it was
Yeah.
like the little green bottle. It was probably like a
Yeah.
Heineken or something. I was like, ooh, 7-Up. And I drank it. I remember just hitting my lips and I thought, oh, like that's god awful. And then when I was
Yeah.
around 16, I had my first beer, sucked ass completely. And then once I was maybe around 16, 17, every time I went to like house parties, like I couldn't finish a single beer. Like it took me forever just to drink the whole damn bottle. And as the US it's 21, right? As a
Yeah.
drinking age. So I still had to wait a long ass time to drink legally. But maybe around like 18, right? Probably around 18, that's when I had my first like absolutely hangover. Just projectile vomiting, just like, "Ugh," like all over the place, just awful. Yeah.
Because I was actually that age, just to go on there, because working on the cruise ships was very weird. Because on the cruise ships, it depends where we are. The Americans will come on, and the kids that are at 18, 19, are like, "Oh, can we drink? Can we drink?" Nah, sorry. even though we're in Mexico.
That's hilarious.
On the ship, they couldn't drink because we have to follow the American rules, even though we're in
Oh,
Mexico.
it
But once they got off
sucks.
the ship, they could go off and get absolutely
Sure.
blind and come back on. It's a bit weird.
I was gonna
And
ask, yeah,
then
because you're constantly like international water, so how does that work? Okay, that makes sense then.
yeah, and then
Okay.
the Aussie kids or the English kids or any other kids that come over on vacation on one of these cruise ships, they're not allowed to drink. They're not allowed to be an adult. So they're stuck in this age group where they're nothing. Like they can't go to the teen parties because the teen parties was 17 and less. And they
Yeah,
can't go to the adult parties because
it's
that's
21
21
and up.
plus. So there's all this 18,
And they're
19.
just stuck in limbo, huh? So what do they do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like we have to be tough on them, but like I feel bad for them. Like you can't drink, you can't do parties. What was the first scary movie that you wish you didn't see that scared the crap out of you?
The Exorcist.
Oh wow,
Eh,
yeah.
I mean, as old as I feel like, I think it was like in the 70s or something, but I remember watching that even as a child, like 20 years after it came out, it's still like haunting. This is all
Yeah.
before like CGI and stuff like that, but just like that, you probably saw the film, right? No, you didn't see
Yeah.
Exorcist? Of course you did. It's a
I
classic.
think I did. It's pretty crazy.
It's
I think
disgusting.
maybe there's a newer version. Is there a newer version? I don't know.
I'm sure. I mean, they had a couple spin-offs. There's like The Exorcist of like whatever her name was, Emily Rose, things like that. But I'm always just you got to stick with the classics. Like the scene where she's
Yeah.
like walking backwards, like on her hands down the stairs. Oh, I get goosebumps just thinking about it now. It was a grown-ass man. Like it's pretty scary. Like the head spinning around, the vomiting, and the demonic voice. That shit scares me. Like I won't ever have my kids watch that ever. Like ever, ever, ever. They won't
I
sleep
don't
for
know.
months. Yeah.
But it wasn't actually a movie. It was more a TV show. We in Australia, I think you have it in America actually because we copied it from your show.
Oh, okay.
Australia's Most Wanted. I think you have the America's Most Wanted
Yeah,
too.
of
Like
course we do. Yeah.
yeah. So when I was watching this in like 8, 6, 7, 8 years old,
Okay.
watching this show about murderers or kidnappers or whatever,
Okay.
I'd go to bed and I'd see either my mum or dad's shadow or us, and it freaked me out for a long time watching that show. But I kept on watching it.
Yeah.
It freaked me out every night. Where's the murderer? Where's the
Yeah.
but the movie in year 4 or 5 we watched Child's Play, Chucky.
Chucky. Yeah.
It's pretty
Child's
freaky.
Play. Yeah.
But the first movie that we got to go to, it wasn't really scary, but the MA movie, like MA is like adult only sort of movie, like not uh 16 plus or 18 plus.
Like
But we
a
got to go
rated
and we're
R
like,
film, like an
yeah,
R-rated film. Yeah.
you need to go when you with a parent or supervisor or someone to
Sure.
take you. And it's
Yeah.
Ransom with Mel Gibson. So we felt pretty rebels that we got to watch that movie when we were like 10 or 11.
I don't think I ever saw
Our
that film.
it was
Yeah.
our rebel movie. It's not a scary movie. It's just an action with a lot of swearing and yeah. But that was that. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's cool. We can get to an MA. How about
What
you?
was the I was gonna ask when on rated movies, 'cause I think yeah, in the States we have the R-rated films, and for that you have to be 17 and up to see that. And I remember the day I turned 17, I had just finished going to work, or I just finished getting off work. My buddy's like, "Hey, let's go to the movies. You're 17 now. Let's go see an R-rated film." And at this time, it was like 9:30, 10 p.m. So I thought, okay, what the hell is there to see? So we go to the films, and the only R-rated film was United 93, the one of the flights that crashed on 9/11, the one that landed in Pennsylvania. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll see. As sad as that is, we'll go check it out because I could flash my ID, like, oh, I'm 17 years old. And after watching it, we just both pass out. No, nothing was wrong with the film, but we were just exhausted. It was just like just a long
Yeah.
day and everything. Oh, I'm gonna rate our film. How exciting! You know, like the first like half hour into it, and then like at the end, we go to the
Really?
credits rolling. I'm like, oh man, that was my first rated R experiences. Yeah, 17-year-old.
I
So
never used to
stupid.
fall asleep to movies, but now I'm getting close. Now I start falling asleep. Yeah. All right, last one. Oh,
Yeah,
unless
go
you got
ahead.
another one.
Shoot, yeah.
What? When did you start wanting to have a girlfriend, or when was your first relationship?
Damn
Like
it, you took
I.
mine, son of a bitch. Okay,
Oh, okay.
no, it's okay. Don't.
You can
Well,
both
I
answer
remember.
it.
No, I was just gonna say. I remember when I was around, probably like the early teens. The early teens, I remember thinking like, oh, I can't wait to have a girlfriend. I remember like pleading with my mom, like, please let me just have like just one girlfriend. She's like, no, school first. You're only like 12, 13 years old. I thought, whatever, mom, I'm just gonna do it anyway. So I was around 2000, 2001? I think 2002. I was in seventh grade, and I had guess like my first girlfriend, whatever. But the first like serious relationship, I think I was 17 years old was my first serious relationship. But yeah, right around there, like right before, probably like senior year in high school. Because I was very studious, I was very focused. I really wanted to get the good grades, go to a good college, so I didn't want to, distract myself too much with girls. What about you?
I remember primary school, there was always a girl that I had a crush on, but I was too shy and embarrassed to have a girlfriend or try to have
Oh,
a relationship in primary
yeah,
school, like K
yeah,
to six. But I
yeah.
remember like when I broke the wrist, one of the girls came up and started trying to say, "Are you okay? Are you okay?"
Oh, whatever. Yeah,
And then like year six or something, everyone was invited to our end of year dance. A
yeah,
girl invited, can you go? And I'm like, okay. Like, but she asked me. I didn't ask her.
yeah.
And I was like,
Like the
okay.
Sadie
Everyone's so,
Hawkins
and
theme where the girl asked the guy, yeah.
the same with high school. The girl had to ask me because I was too shy and embarrassed to do anything. So I didn't really have a relationship up until actually when I first moved to Canada. That was my first relationship. I had some flings in university, but nothing, no relationship. Nothing. So I didn't
Yeah.
really thought about a relationship until maybe university age, and then had one in Canada when I was 24. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
definitely for college for me,
I was
that's
a bit of a
pretty much well.
late bloomer with the ladies. Yeah.
No, I mean I've always been sociable. Girls have always approached me, always wanted to date. Like eighth grade, God, like I went to so many schools growing up as a kid because we moved constantly. So like every school that I went to, I mean, I'm not bragging or anything, but every school that I went to, like girls would always just come up like how girls are always like shy, so they have like groups of girls come up speak on behalf of like their friend, like, oh, so and so thinks you're cute. You want to date him, you want to go out with them. She's like, that was kind of like such like a mama's boy too. I was like, well, I don't know, I gotta ask my mom for permission. So I kind of look stupid, you know,
Mm,
saying this to
mm,
these girls. And I'll never forget like my first day of eighth grade, it was a record. It was like eight girls asked me on that day, like eight of them. And I turned them all down. By the end of the year, I was like, shit, why did I do that? Like I could at least have went out with one of them. But
yeah.
yeah, I didn't really care. I was kind of like nerdy too in middle school. Like I
Mm,
just wanted to play like video games and go to like, stay up all night, drink like Mountain Dew and just play like GameCube or whatever it was. I wasn't
mm,
really interested in girls like that. Probably till again like late high school or like their early years of college. But
mm. I
yeah.
wish I had the social skills I have. Even now, I'm not great. But I wish I had a little bit better what I've got now than back in high school because actually just here in Cronulla, like everyone comes here. It's school holidays here. Everyone's here to meet girls or meet boys at the beach. I live next to the beach, so it's just
Sweet.
packed with teenagers. I'm like, imagine being a teenager.
Looking out the window, just fantasizing. Dear Lord, you have
I can't
crazy
see that.
things.
It's
Oh,
down
okay.
the road. But you walk down the shops and you're like, oh, I wish I was a teenager again. Yeah.
Oh man, what I would do,
And
right?
with social skills, I didn't have the social skills to go up to. I still don't have the social skills to go up to random girls sometimes. So yeah.
Really?
Mm.
I could.
Sometimes.
I'm married, but I could. Again, I could talk to anybody. I don't have a shy bone in my body. It's easy to make connection with people. Again, it just depends. I wonder what Hyukjun's like. He's pretty sociable too.
Mm. Especially
Oh
when
yeah.
it's got some drinks in it. It's-
Shout out to Hyukjun. We hope you get better, buddy. He's currently under the weather for our listeners wondering where he is. But we just wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully he
Yep.
can join us on the next episode. With that being
Mm.
said, I think we're okay wrapping this one up. We got maybe just a few minutes left. So to those who've been listening to us, thank you for celebrating our 1 year for from on one anniversary with us. I believe it was just like last
Oh,
week. Yeah, I know, right? I forgot to mention this. I think last week or 2 weeks ago. So if you've been with us for the past year, we forever thank you. As always, head over to our link tree, check out our socials, our website. You can check out all of our merchandise, also found under Linktree as well. We got a bunch of goodies for both men and women. Sport and rock our apparel if you would like. Helps us in the long run. And as always, rate us on your favorite platform, wherever you're listening to us, and head over to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe to our videos. Anything you want
all
to say,
right.
Keith, before we head out? Yeah.
No. Welcome back to Korea, Geo, and I'll see everyone in the next one in India.
India. Ooh, safe
India.
travels to you, buddy.
Namaste.
Namaste. Well, good night,
All right,
everybody.
later.
Tune in next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.